Able to train 50 weeks of the year, it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of grit. In the off season, I find myself needing grit and using grit to get through hard workouts and to get out of bed in the morning knowing that I have a high intensity interval session and a lift, and that they're both probably gonna suck, but I'm gonna do them because they're gonna make me a better skier. I think that's what grit is to me. When I made the national team, it was kind of when I actually understood the hard work it took to really sustain this level, and sometimes that means being out here in the rain and doing intervals anyway, even when it's literally raining sideways. There's a certain amount of crazy that, I mean, alpine skiers have to have, at least to go 80 miles an hour down an icy mountain, but also that any elite athlete needs to have to be able to push through and put your nose down and grind.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
It brings back a lot of nostalgia, I think, now playing piano, but it also is just kind of such a different application of brain power that I really like how unique music is compared to the rest of my life. I also, when I was younger, I used to actually ski. I would ski slalom with two of those waltzes that I played in my head because the rhythm kind of made sense in my head. There's the rhythm of the waltz applied to the rhythm of slalom. I can't really pinpoint one specific moment that I fell in love with skiing, and I think it was just kind of a slow build over time as I grew up skiing around chasing my brother and my cousins, and I always loved that. I mean, we would just zip around the mountains of New Hampshire, and that was so much fun to me, and that built that kind of foundation of passion for the sport and for being out in the cold. And then I can remember the first time that I skied downhill. That was that first moment that I really got the adrenaline rush from speed skiing that I wanted. I wanted to feel that again. I wanted to feel that more and more. So Now we add tomatoes.
After 2 minutes?
After 2 minutes, bring to a simmer and cook, stirring constantly. I was the pickiest eater as a child. They made a rule that when I turned 13, I would have to cook all my own meals because they were no longer going to cook me something separate from what they were eating.
Well, I mean, we knew she was a great athlete. As far as skiing goes,
I would say her 8th grade year, she just started winning or being 1 or 2 in all of those races, and kept qualifying for the next level up, and got invited to the Can-Am races in Canada. And we had these coaches suddenly coming to us saying, your daughter could be a really good ski racer.
I feel like everything in that block has changed except Atlantic Bagel. I don't remember any of those stores being there.
that's where Alice went to preschool. That big gray building.
Wow, they're preschool. Gray, isn't that blue?
Blue, gray? Does this bring you back?
Yeah. After I came back from the 2018 Olympics, I got to come and say hi to all the elementary schoolers, and that was really special.
Dr. Alice was designated Hingham History Maker by the town of Hingham, first female Olympian, and it was really nice. They did a big deal for it.
Hingham High School. Wow. Spent a lot of time in these fields. I spent my whole childhood here. I spend a lot less time here now than I used to, and I left it earlier than I expected when I went off to boarding school my freshman year, but I think that, if anything, makes it so much more special when I get to come back. Very good. That's my half. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really special to come home. I mean, I love training in Utah. It's our headquarters and our home base, but being able to come back to a place that's so comfortable and so familiar to me is really special. It's got my cat running around sometimes. I've got the bird sound, the fresh breeze. I'm definitely not used to the humidity. I'm completely drenched in sweat, but it feels very different. It's like hardcore training, but in the safest environment. Even on days like today when I have 2 hard sessions, it's when I'm really grinding and I'm in a lot of pain and I have to think about, okay, why am I doing this? And it's so that I can go skiing and I can do the sport that I absolutely love.
好好。啊！这个。哦。放松。
6点9。我当时练体育的时候，我妈就告诉我一句话：你要选择的话，你就一直坚持到底，要不你就别选。然后我当时也是下定决心了嘛，好好练。
2、1，走！
正常每天都这样吗？时间不长了。
差不多吧。就控制在一个心率，然后就一直我就滑到身体沉了之后就下来，身体很沉的时候就下来。今天就挺累的，就把自己练到累就完事儿了，没啥压力。
干嘛对自己这么狠呢？明天？
那你不动很哪有成绩啊？
I love winning. That's what motivates me. But I still feel like there is a lot of progress to make.
There are more speed skaters who doesn't like what they have to do to become that really good speed skater. Guy know what he needs to improve.
Yeah, it's a combination of a lot of things you actually just don't want to do but have to do to get to the goal you actually have in your mind. The grind, it's like suffering, patience, endurance. I hate to feel the pain, but at the same time, I feel like I have to do it.
He already improved himself in the last year, but there is more. When he make a little step, peak power, and at stamina, he's really dangerous.
I am like a super competitive person. Like with some trainings, I can reach the highest of them all. I can go on when some people will actually, quit. It took me a while to get to a level in which I could compete and win. And I feel like I haven't hit the ultimate performance for myself yet. This is why you work so hard, to prove to yourself that, yeah, you are the best.
I've learned to just embrace training and embrace the hard work that goes in off the hill. Skiing's a winter sport, but it's a full year commitment. You know, the off season is definitely not an off season in terms of resting. I mean, we're doing 2 workouts a day. So we are in Park City, Utah, at my summer apartment. I live here for training, and this is home base for the off season, really. It is 7:20 in the morning. Breakfast on training days is pretty much always just this bowl of cereal, fruit, peanut butter. Trying to keep it really consistent, kind of nice to, in the off season, just settle in and kind of do the same repetitive thing over and over again. I've come out here every summer since my first year on the team, so since 2015. This is year 6, and it seems like each year I spend a little bit more time until now I consider this home pretty much. I like being really close to our training center. It's such a huge asset to have access to the Center of Excellence and massive gym that we have there. And normally it doesn't rain ever, so this is a bit of an anomaly. Good morning, Tori.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's dark in here.
It's so dark. Oh my gosh.
Come on this way.
Some days I feel like an Olympian. When I'm pushing through a workout, when I'm training well. But there are also days that are more challenging and that I don't feel like an Olympian. And I think that it was some kind of fluke that I went to the last games, and when those self-doubts come in, I find it really easy to lose motivation and to kind of spiral downward. The bad sessions would affect me for days sometimes. And so what I've really been working on is, much like I do when I'm skiing, if I have a bad race run or a bad day of training, I give myself like 10, 20 minutes to kind of sulk and be mad about it, and then I have to move on. To be committed and to be able to train 50 weeks of the year takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of grit. Knowing that I can, knowing that I have the strength to do that, really believing in myself and putting my head down and doing the work anyway. In my mind, my greatest achievement as a skier was racing in the Olympics in 2018. I came down in the lead. It was very short-lived. I think I held first for all of 30 seconds. But just that feeling of crossing the finish line, seeing the green, and having my teammates like there on the side, seeing my family in the crowd, the raw emotion and excitement of that very moment. To me, that joy is what skiing is all about. I think that's been my greatest achievement in skiing so far. I never expected that I would be an Olympian. I always wanted to be an Olympian since I was a little kid and thought that just seemed like the coolest thing in the world. But I never set out to be an Olympian. I think that I always said I love ski racing, and I'm gonna work as hard as I possibly can to be the best ski racer that I can be, and I'm gonna just see where that leads me.
I can't actually remember life without training. I don't know exactly how much I train in terms of like how many days a year, but it's a lot. I spend the majority of the year travelling and training abroad. I actually really like it like that because it's all I've ever known. I guess when I was younger, I didn't really see snowboarding as training. It was just something that I enjoyed. It was a hobby, and I just did it because I loved it. I get to come and train in here whenever I come over to do my gymnastics work and my training. Following on from breaking my heel at the Pyeongchang Olympics, I had to have such a long time off snow because of my rehab. You know, it was a really long process. Obviously, yeah, there's a lot of working hard behind the scenes so that it is like brand new, but I knew that I wasn't going to go back to snowboarding until it was 100% and stronger than it was before. The work that goes on behind the scenes that you wouldn't see what I'm doing on a snowboard is, you know, the strength and conditioning, being in the gym, doing the stretching, all that goes into it that I do in the off season. But it's so vital because most of the training that I do in the gym is preventing me from injuries, but also making sure that I'm as strong as possible so that I can be the best snowboarder possible. So there is a lot of aspects that go into the actual dry land training in order to perform at my best when I'm on snow.
I'm very competitive. That's what helps me in everyday life. When I lose, I try to get inside, deep, to understand why and what should I do better. Yeah, my competitiveness probably got me where I am. It's just me, you know. That's why I go on the ice earlier than pretty much everybody else, just to get the feeling, you know. I think about hockey a lot, actually. Before I go to sleep, I think about it. But sometimes, you know, as the season goes on and you play so many games, it kind of gets harder and harder. I try not to, but it still gets to my head. I broke the mold twice. That's why I, you know, decided to buy this. To get ready for the season is it's a hell. You have to prepare your body so you can run for 82 games, you can skate for 82 games, you can jump and all that stuff, and your muscles don't die. It sounds brutal, and it is brutal, and it's very hard, but that's the routine. It does get tiring. You're always tired. Your hips are tight. You feel like an 80-year-old man, you know what I mean? And you get sick of it sometimes, but this is my life now. And every day, you're trying to beat your opponent, you're trying to beat yourself. Because sometimes you get lazy, so you have to work on yourself. You have to tell your brain, like, hey, come on, man, like, wake up. It's an everyday battle that you have to get through.
My boyfriend Sam noticed early on, I think I had mentioned something about feeling really stressed and unhappy, and we went on a hike and he just came out and said, you know, like, I think you're showing signs of an eating disorder. I've been lucky, knock on wood, that I haven't had any very serious injuries, just a couple of concussions, a thumb surgery. But the eating disorder and kind of the various mental health challenges that came with that have been harder than anything else I've experienced from the sport. It took a lot of reflection to really even start to figure out where the disorder came from, because it surprised the crap out of me. I never thought I would have an eating disorder. I mean, I guess that's not really something anyone expects, but it completely blindsided me, and I think after looking back on a lot of things, it seems like once I had made the World Cup team and was racing at the highest level of the sport, I had made the Olympic team, I had to then climb the ranks in that level, and to do that I needed to make myself better. Around that time, I became a lot more self-critical, and that is what eventually spiraled into the actual eating disorder when I took the step of fully restricting how much I was eating. I was immensely unhappy. When we started training on snow, we went out to Europe. My mental health took such a dive. It was so stressful and so degrading to not have the mass that I needed, to not have the energy that I needed. There just was no push to it, no fire, no passion, no strength. And so the frustration I was feeling with my ability on snow only made it that much worse. At that point, I still didn't relate the fact that I wasn't eating enough to the fact that I wasn't performing well. And by the time I was leaving Europe, that was when my coaches said, we need to do something about this, because we realize that there's a real problem. That was the first time that a medical professional said they would diagnose me with anorexia nervosa. And I still didn't believe it at the time. I mean, I thought, I'm an athlete, I would never have an eating disorder. But I mean, I was just a wreck. I was bawling, and I felt like there was nothing in my control. My coaches and even my teammates were worried about me. We did another round of kind of medical testing and started to show some damage in my organs, in my kidneys and liver, that my body was really starting to break down. And that was what actually shocked me. That was that final push that I needed to go to treatment and seek out far more intensive help. And then I told my parents. They agreed. They said, if this is what everyone thinks is best, then we think it's best, and we're gonna support you no matter what. That was probably the hardest phone call I've ever made to them. I mean, we've always kind of joked about the call when inevitably I get hurt and I'm probably in Europe and I call them from a hospital somewhere and say, you know, I've broken my leg or something like that. And it's sad that that's kind of an inevitable phone call in this sport, but I never imagined that that phone call would be, guys, I have an eating disorder and I'm going to treatment instead of racing.
We were both out in Denver just to be there.
Yeah, that was huge for me, having both of you there for that whole time, because, I mean, we were living in a hotel, and I at first didn't want you guys there at all, because I didn't want you to see me going through it, and thought, you know, I'm going to be at therapy 10 hours a day, like I won't actually interact with you at all. And then it ended up being, I mean, I wouldn't always talk to you guys when I'd come back, but it still, for me, it was so great to have you both there, and that was an incredible amount of support during the worst of it.
Like, I didn't understand it at all, and being able to participate in some of her kind of group sessions and seeing the diversity of the people in that room and the scope of what an eating disorder can do to people and how it impacts people, you know, it was overwhelming and terrifying. Heading into it, I had no idea what to expect. In the middle of that kind of session, I was, you know, just scared and wondering how Alice was going to figure out how to get through it. And so how proud am I that she's where she is now? Unspeakably. Like, it's incredible. And I think it's part of Alice's toughness.
She's gone about it the way she does everything. You know, she tackles it head on and just does an incredible job at whatever she takes on, and this has been no exception.
Since recovery, I've learned a lot about body dysmorphia and the ways that your brain can twist what you're seeing, but I always tend to tell myself, well, like, it's not a funhouse warped mirror, so what I'm seeing is what the reality is. It's just how my brain then twists it, and that's what I'm still working on quite a bit, is how I actually process what I'm seeing, and that's going to be the difference. I always am taking everything day by day. I mean, I wake up and I have some bad days where I feel guilty about something I ate the day before, or just don't feel up to the fight. That is something that sometimes I have to push through, and I'm a lot farther along than I think I dreamed I could be. I feel like I've regained a little bit of everything. The hardest decision I've ever made was going to treatment. The battle that I've been waging against myself to just constantly feel like my brain is swirling and to constantly be berating myself, that battle has been a lot harder than any sporting event I think I've ever done.
¿Estás bien?
Volé.
¿Estás bien?
Sí. Siempre esas caídas son las que más duelen.
Okay. Vamos a hacerlo en 3 partes. Yo creo los primeros 4.
Okay.
Este deporte es difícil como cualquier otro y requiere mucha disciplina, constancia, esfuerzo, dedicación, que a veces no todos los atletas están dispuestos a tener.
I start my training in the morning at 6:30 a.m. and I have to teach later in the evening.
Pásale tú primero. Wow. Ok. Última vuelta, chicas. Traten de hacerlo más largo. De aquí, lo más largo que puedan. Muy bien, chicas. Hay que seguir trabajando. La clave del patinaje es la repetición, ¿ok?
And then I have to do another training session. And I skate for maybe 2 hours more. And I finish my day around 8.
Sí, ¿verdad? Exacto. Y luego brazo derecho. Velo pasando, pasando, pasando. Más rápido, rápido, ahí rápido. Ya. Push. Solo el giro. Bam, pum. Okay.
Sometimes training is really hard. It's just something that we have to deal with. To be your best. If you are not working really hard to accomplish a dream, you will have nothing. When I don't do the things that I know that I can do right, I'm really hard with myself. These feelings sometimes get out of control, and the emotion just beats me. It's something that I need to work on.
Por eso como ya es muy poquito, eso es de práctica y de repetición.
Yeah, I mean, I hope one day the mirror won't matter. I haven't set any kind of timeline. Who knows if that day will actually ever come. You know, it'd be really awesome if that day arrived at some point, but I know that body image is going to be a struggle of mine throughout my whole life, and I'm sure, you know, now I'm in my athletic career and I can look at myself and know that I'm an athlete and that, you know, my body is really functional for what I wanted to do. But I imagine, you know, when I'm done skiing and I'm done competing, that'll be a whole transition, and the mirror might get even more difficult for a time as I have to adjust to how I'm using my body for different things somewhere in the future. It's on. Are we playing gin?
Mm-hmm. Whatever game I lose at least.
You have been beating me in gin lately.
One game.
I'm not okay with it. That's one too many. Sam and I are very different people, which is really wonderful. He's super laid back, but he has that same drive and ability to just grind. Since I developed the worst of my eating disorder, he's taught me so much patience and gratitude and self-acceptance through his humor and just good nature. You know, I can tell him if I'm having a day that I feel really uncomfortable in my skin. I really don't think I would be anywhere near this far along in my recovery without him.
26. 46.
What'd you have last time?
22. 23. I think adversity is good for anyone. It obviously sucks in the moment, but you gain more tools of overcoming difficulties in life. You know, you come out a little more bulletproof for a bit of adversity, and I think the way she dealt or is dealing with her eating disorder speaks volumes to who she is. She's tough as nails. The guts it took to recognize it, do something about it, and continue to be successful pushing it away, it's been cool to watch.
Oh. Jen,
what?
I have to rearrange.
Jeez. Oh. I'm gonna find some game that you're not good at.
Never.
Hasn't worked yet.
So I had my first on-snow camp with my whole team back in April and May. Went out to Mammoth, California for our first spring camp. And it was like day and night from those two camps last fall. Being able to do like 15 runs of training and feel pleasantly tired, not like I'm gonna collapse tired, to not feel cold all the time, those were the first super tangible changes that I felt. It was mind-blowing to me. I felt so functional and so much like myself, and heard that from every single one of my teammates and my coaches about how I was the Alice that they remembered from before the eating disorder, and that was really rewarding to hear, and it was really rewarding to feel like I could do everything that I wanted to.
Oh my God, it's snowing. It's August. This is making me so happy. Ah. Wow.
It's gonna be a big few months for sure, but I feel so ready. I can't believe that I'm saying that, given where I was 6 or 8 months ago.
Of course, I'm working really hard to improve myself on every practice. This is key to be at my best.
Trusting the process and trusting yourself. It's an everyday grind. You have to go through hell to get to something. It's rarely that it's easy for someone, and you just put up a plan and work.
正在练我的每次都在练我的新动作，每次都要和朋友一起，你推我，我推你，但是都是在学习中。
Well, pretty much everything that I do is revolved around snowboarding and strength and conditioning, being in the gym, and a lot of pre-season work as well that no one really sees. We do train a lot, but it's totally worth it.
我感觉我这些强度可能就弥补之前吧。现在状态可能没有之前好，但是一点一点在往回走。
I still feel like there is a lot of progress to make. Technical stuff, physical stuff, that's what actually keeps me going.
I feel incredibly strong physically. I feel pretty strong mentally as Olympic season starts, but I'm so excited to start racing again. I finally have that hunger for competition and belief in myself that I can be a really great ski racer.